Hey there, everyone. We're going to continue talking about the best penny stocks to buy now. NVTS stock, does it have more juice? What about ONDS stock, RZLV, and bigbear.ai stocks? Also, I'll give an update on Beam as well. But we will kick things off with looking at the background market bias because there's some pretty intense and incredible things going on that we have to watch and be aware of for this. It really is a critical moment, and that overall look that we have, that picture of the market and the risk assets, are really going to inform the shape of what we see, or have heavily influence at least on the penny stocks that I talk about in this one, and the continuation of a bullish market that we need to see in order to really see that that confluence of upward pressure take place if we're looking for those blast off moments, if you will. So we're going to put up the SPY for you, and we're looking at the 4-hour chart. You can see it back here on the background of the screen. SPY tracking the S&P 500, and every candle's 4 hours. And a few things that I see when I look at this, there we go, and stretch that out. There's the RSI for you. What you can see is the RSI is actually generally dropping over this time, which means that we have a momentum decline, even though it's still in bullish territory on a 4-hour basis, on a monthly basis, daily basis, weekly basis, you name it. The prices are moving up sort of steadily over that time. Now, I talked about the bearish divergence we had back here, and you can see that we had a drop that followed during that time. Let me stretch that out for you, move it down to the center of the screen. There we go. Have it bigger for you. This is a really nice W shape that we have here, which is bullish, and we broke up above that, which is also a very good thing. Now, mind you, what we didn't really do is break a true neckline on this thing. So these tops that we have over here, if we don't sit on top of them, then that can be very limiting to us. Now, what you see is some bulls putting on that pressure onto the bears, and the bears are holding on to this top line. If the bears give way to that, then what we see is price discovery to the north on SPY. A lot of that can be influenced by big tech and continued strong earnings, if you will, as we get into this really ramped up earnings season. We still have the government shutdown in the background. We have trade war tensions in the background, still geopolitical tensions that exist somewhere. Those are sort of distant in the minds of the market at the moment. One of the more relevant things as the government shutdown concludes is, what are we going to hear about labor market reports? Because honestly, I feel like the market is setting us up for that fever pitch, if you will, that everything feels like it's going to be great and incredible. And then we get the economic reports, and those are the things that cause or can cause a snap moment, if you will. So I want to be aware of that, and I want to make you aware of that. So this is very good. The momentum, we want to see it continue to increase, and especially we want to see that price take up for SPY, go north of 674 and hold on to it as support. And then we go to the Qs. There we go, tracking the NASDAQ 100. Same similar shape, similar commentary. We want to see this sit on top of 613 in order to see further price discovery. And this little narrow range that we have across these 4-hour candles here, after that great movement that we saw in the pre-market on Monday, we want to see that continuation. We absolutely could see it. 619, I think, is actually the next time that we really find resistance on this. Well, out of what I have drawn here, you see this trend line, which happens to be, like I said, right around that 619 mark, but that's not the only one. If I put up the retracements and the extensions, there's that 619 that I was talking about as well. So hopefully we get that movement. There's a lot of reasons to be hopeful, but we should be cautious because a rejection here could be very bad for us. So we just want to be aware of that. And then also, let's go out to IWM. So this is going to track the Russell 2000 stocks, and we're not up to those previous peaks. This is a rising wedge over here that you see on the left of your screen. We fell out of it, got rejected, sold down, got rejected again, sold down. But you can still see that general direction is up for the moment, and we're looking left to these peaks. Got to sit on top of those as support. And that happened for a little while, but we still found that selling pressure. We're looking for that reason, for that renewed sense to push even higher from up here. And then for IWM, tracking Russell 2000 stocks, the small caps, we need to break up and sit on top of that 251.66. So we could actually have a pretty easy ride up until that point in time, maybe even up to this all-time high that we have over here during the off-peak hours, at least I believe. This would actually go into the regular market hours. That high of 252.77. Now, Bitcoin is another important thing to watch. This is the daily chart that we're looking at here. What we got so far, and this is something to pay attention to, a rejection off the 50, followed by a rejection off the 13 and a close down below the 5. We're still finding that buying pressure right around that 200, which is this blue line here, and it's pretty flat across, which can be really strong for support when it's beneath your price action, and when it's above the flat moving averages, especially something as important as the 200 can act as really significant resistance. This could be very good for us. We are in a position to have a lot of hope that the risk assets, which is why I include Bitcoin in this, have some more northward movement to make before they're done and over with. And so with that, that takes us into our best penny stocks to buy now. There we go, starting with Big Bear AI. And what we're looking at for Big Bear AI, now we see a sell-off here, and then we said a little bit of a rally, but you can see sort of this consolidation type look. And this is something we want to pay attention to. So what we have is the bulls gaining ground this way, and we have the bears also gaining ground this way. And what they're doing is they're pinching, and this could be very big for when we see the market open today. We could watch have support very near to the south. We have resistance fairly good distance up to the north that we could put on about 80 cents from where we're at right now. And it would be nice to see that happen. This is a consolidation pattern, and the direction that you move is the direction that you can continue moving once you break out of it. So if I snag the paintbrush and use my excellent art skills, we could see this where we bounce to the north, or we could see this where we get rejected in some way and then bounce to the south. And we'll see if that support will hold nearby. If it is a big momentum move, especially on volume, that can really tell us which direction to go. And it can also add a little bit of amplification because it adds conviction to the play if the volume is there as well. So when we go to RZLV, we see a little bit of the same formation here. Not quite as solid because we don't have the bulls giving up the same amount of ground here. We see the tops coming down. So if I was to draw a trend line on RZLV, let's actually switch from 5-minute and let's go up to 15-minute. Take out some of the noise out of this. We're also going to take out down the VWAP. There we go. Reset the view. That's cleaner for us. Perfect. So what you can see on this is that we can see that the bears are gaining ground from the north. And if I draw that trend line on there, somewhat similar. There we go. Not my favorite trend line, but it's not too bad either. And let's also click on this as well. We actually have more of a shelf going across this way. Now, what we see from this is more of a descending triangle pattern. If this support fails, we could see that push down below 470. And if 470 fails, then we got a shot down at 424. Not great for us. If we're able to overtake 495, that could be good to move us up to these previous peaks that we see, that we get that selling pressure coming at 509, and then this peak over here during the pre-market hours of 523. After that, then we get to go back and test out these resistances to the north of 559 and 563. For ONDS, there's that same consolidation type pattern that we saw for Big Bear AI, only this thing is sitting right up against resistance to the north. So not only would it have to break off the top trend line, but it also has to then push up above that. Above 830 is where I think where we really start to get that takeoff in that room. And we also see a little bit of volume tapering during this time, further evidence of this lack of conviction, low trading volume, relatively speaking, for something like ONDS. I will say from a momentum standpoint, as we look at the 1 hour chart that I have here, we're seeing a rather steep momentum climb from that oversold territory, and it looks like we're getting ready to push back into some bullish position. So that would be very good for us to see. And like I said, north of 830, I think is really where that long trade comes in. When we move to NVTS, this is one I think that we need to be cautious about at this point in time, because we see the volumes starting to sputter out a little bit, and we also see the momentum starting to give up here as well. So the important thing there is that even though we're in bullish territory, we're also in overbought territory. So what we have is declining momentum. And let me move that down there, and we'll also bring this down here, and we're going to clean this up a little bit for you so that you have an easier time viewing what's on the chart in front of you. And when I do that, what you see is that we got the breakout from yesterday's consolidation, which notice how we had a continuation from what was before, which is good evidence that it's good technicals. But however, when we look at ONDS and Big Bear AI, they sold, consolidate, now they might sell again. So we got to watch that bottom trend line. For NVTS, the thing to worry about is that we're watching those prices climb, the volume starting to drop, and the momentum starting to drop. We could be near the end of this movement. This is the time that I would feel that it's time that chasing might start to happen, especially when we look at the overbought status on the daily chart. And so for this one, given the bearish divergence that we see, and then also, let me put the Fibonacci extensions and retracements back up there for you. Look at the tangle that we find ourselves in. Now, let's stretch this out. Look at the free rise. that we had in here where there's no real moving averages in our way or anything. So what we had after this push that we had here from 1482 was a clean push back up to 16. Then we sat on top of 16 on the next candle over. This is the 3-hour chart, by the way, for Navitas Semiconductor stock. So we had that clean push up above until we got here, and notice we chopped a little bit. We got all the way up to this top area. So every time we hit that free rise, we had a nice strong movement, but then it was also free to move back down as well. So now we find ourselves in this chop right around that 1688 to 1713 with a lot of indecision going along with it as well. So for NVTS, it could give up a little bit. It has to sit on top of 1713 if instead it's going to move back to the north. And if we drop down to a lower time period chart, there we go, you can actually see this pennant type formation. And one of the weaknesses of it is because of how extended the stock is on a daily basis. So even though it had a little bit of cooling, it still has this work cut out for it. So it has to break back above 1713. It also has to push back above 1777 and 1786. And then let me go back to the monthly chart for a moment because I want you to see this. There we go. Because we could find ourselves in all-time high territory in the not too distant future. Let me take down all those lines and stuff. There we go. Because look over here, our highest priced of all time on this is 22.19, and so that would take us up about 30-ish% from where we're at right now to go back and reach that all-time high. So that's not that substantial a move. Now, it could be because we're overbought on monthly, we're overbought on weekly, and we're overbought on, like I said, the daily chart basis. There we go. Let it load for us. But we also see signs of a momentum decline here as well as those prices continued to march upward. So we might take those all-time highs. I don't know that I have a lot of conviction that it's a straight shot from here. I think that there's that good potential that we could have that dip back first because, well, we've made a 136% run during this month alone. And this thing, if we go back to just April of this year, was trading for a closing price of $1.93. So a $2 stock that is now a $17 stock. So that's an 8.5x move that we've seen since April with maybe some further upside to go. Now, if this thing does come back to ARF on us, watch the shelf, especially if it really comes back hard. I think that next major opportunity, that next major time comes in those mid-11 range is what I'll call it. So mid-11 up to $12 where we have this previous peak over here and then also the top of that candle. I think that should we see that hard of a pullback, we could see that. I don't anticipate that it would pull back that hard, but if it does, that's where I start to get very interested in the prices on Navitas Semiconductors. And honestly, there's a lot of reason to believe that we could see this come to fruition and happen over the next several months, maybe that we see it even the next several weeks, or it could even happen the next several days. And I think the background market bias does have a lot to do with it. Close things off with Beam. Now, Beam, I talked about the importance of closing up above the 13-month EMA. We got above it, but right now, look at that selling pressure that's coming in. This is still October. This is still active. Here's the ticker, BEEM. So this one, I talked about the importance of getting on top of that 13, and we did, but we didn't hold it so far. 1356 is that albeit price that we want to close above for the month of October. If we can, that really keeps us open to that $5 price tag on Beam. And as always, I'm going to keep reiterating as much as I can, as often as I can, just how important the background market bias is. These are very small ships in a very, very big sea. And so as that tide moves, these ships are very prone to moving with it. And as those major waves come along, whether they're helpful waves or hurtful waves, they can certainly be something that really crash hard into these ships, and they usually react in outsized ways. So that's my commentary that I have. If you guys want to see technicals, you want to see transactions that I make, come on over to the Discord that we have available down in the description. Check it out, 3-day free trial. And I'll tell you what, guys, it's an entire ecosystem over there dedicated to helping you in your journey towards financial freedom and building alpha in your portfolios. And for me, I do a lot of technical analysis and I do a lot of options trading. And if you guys want to learn about either one of those, not only can you do it through that Discord, but you can do it even more specifically and more focused through the coursework through Stockmo Academy. And I'll tell you what, those courses, absolutely top notch. I've got 18 years in education with an earned doctorate in education. I've vetted these courses myself, and I can't imagine making any change to any one of them because they are just so solidly put together. Code word doctor will get you $400 off. And if you bundle the 2 courses together on technical analysis for trading and then also options, you'll get a bundle discount on top of that $400 discount from using the code word doctor that I mentioned before. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.